So it's 1:15, let's go ahead and get started. So welcome all, this is the Las Vegas UX UI Meetup. My name is Valerie Caña. I'm currently a senior designer. I work at a B2B fintech company, and I'm your monthly host. So I see a lot of my friends here, which is great. Familiar faces, Ty, and then some new faces. So thank you so much for being here. I really encourage you all, if you're interested, to join our group on LinkedIn. Just made this a month ago, but if you want to stay connected with everybody and me and give me any questions or future meetup ideas, this is where you can go ahead and do it. So if you've been to previous meetups, you would have seen this design thinking framework a lot. Every meetup is based off of one of these phases, from empathize, define, ideate, prototype, test, and implement. Previously, we talked about user testing, ideation and iteration. We talked about different design processes from startups versus to like larger organizations. But today, I'm really excited to finally be talking about the thing that I know most people are really interested in. Drum roll, please. We're going to be talking finally about prototyping, designer tools, desk setup, workflow, prototyping tricks within Figma, aka all the beautiful, sexy things. And it just, I make this joke because in all of the previous talks, I always iterate that it's important to focus on your craft first as a designer. Think about your critical thinking before you get into all the fancy equipment. But once you're there, it's also a really fun time to talk about it, especially this is going to be the last UX meetup of the year, and with the holidays around the corner, I just thought it'd be fun to talk about the things we're thankful for as designers, because we spend all of our time trying to make other people's lives better, but what about us? How should we make our lives better and our workflow processes even faster? So this is our agenda today. I just did the introduction. I'll be going over some physical tools that designers like, digital tools, and then I'll do some Figma demonstrating, and then I'll have you all like break into groups and talk about your favorite resources, even if you're not a designer or developer, just anything that optimizes your own workflow. Alrighty, so like I said, craft is first. And last time I talked about sketching, and I told everyone the most important tool of a designer is pen and paper. Software will change all of the time, especially with the rise of AI, who knows? But this is our practice. And what does it really mean to be in the practice of design? It's talking about it every single day. It's always being up to date of like latest trends, so you can go against them. It's about learning all of the rules so then you can master them, and then also break them, and then just having a great community where we can geek out about all of the cool stuff that will enhance our lives. So maybe you've all seen like these kinds of memes online where it's like packages of like what makes a UX researcher or content designer, UX designer, and then for some of my friends, also graphic designer. We always joke like, well, if you don't have a Pantone color bridge or like a really fancy mouse, like, are you really a designer? And again, I do want to emphasize, they won't really make you a designer, but it's still fun. And for me, because I've been like in my profession, I think it's coming up into like 9 years. I've spent a lot of time curating what really works for me. And so the rest of this presentation might sound like a sales pitch. It's definitely not. I just want to show you some of the items that I really like that really enhances my workflow. I'm really grateful that like at work, people tell me that I work really fast. And it's because I've spent a lot of time curating and really mastering my tools, so that I can master my designs. All right, so some physical tools. This is kind of what's in my backpack as a designer, which is right here, which is a beautiful Briggs & Riley laptop bag. Ever since I started graphic design. I've always carried a large backpack with me just because there were so many notebooks, laptops, heavy mice, and electronical equipment. Computer I'm using doesn't really matter as long as you're able to open up like 6 programs, 10 programs at a time, then you're fine. So just make sure it has like a lot of processing power. This mouse is the absolute like goat. And it's really important to think about how you're going to work like ergonomically, because humans aren't meant to stay at a desk all day. But you know, if you do things like yoga, stretch your arms, you know, give yourself eye breaks, drink water, and get yourself a Logitech Master MX3, you know, your life is really going to change. And I only say that it's really cool to think about a different kind of mouse, because you could see we have this like middle button here. It has a side scroller. It has the front, forward, and back, and this one is also a button. And so I've programmed all of these to go to like my asset folders. So if I just click this button, I save 5 seconds of my time rather than like opening up Finder and then clicking through all these folders. Now I go to this folder probably like 100 times a day. So that saves me all the time in the world. And that really matters, especially when, you know, our CEO is like, please make this icon right now. And like we have 2 seconds. So, you know, just like things to think about. Keyboards.
Price point of that mouse.
It's $100.
See, okay, real quick, I have a quick story.
Yes.
So I got an Anchor mouse that is very similar, but it was like $20, $25. Let me tell you, don't go cheap on the mouse.
No.
Because after like 3 months, the scroll wheel doesn't work, and now it's causing me more pain. I gotta look at this mouse.
Exactly. No, actually, I was using the Apple Magic Mouse maybe like almost a year. And then I had bad carpal tunnel for like 4 months in like my senior year of college. I could not design at all because it's so flat. Now this, like when you hold this, it's gonna feel really large, but no, it's curved to your hand. And your hand is the extension of your mind. So yes, please invest. And again, I'm not sponsoring any of these things. I just love this stuff so much. Yeah, sponsored by. Well, it's also Black Friday next week, so you know.
Really well. I like that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, just things to think about, or like things, you know, links to send your friends and family of things you want. A keyboard that I use is a Logitech Craft. It's actually a little bit old. I bought it at my very first Adobe Max, but this also has really cool features like this little wheel. It lets me like scale things very quickly, like in the design program. It lets me like switch tabs or like change brush sizes. That's more like graphic design stuff. But I absolutely love it, as well as like the full like number keyboard here. That really helps me with shortcuts as well. But I also have the Magic keyboard here because that's what I use at work. Your monitor also really matters. Well, especially in UX design, I mean, we're not working in print, so I think, you know, we don't have to be as technical with the color specs on these monitors. But again, you'll have like just so many tabs open, and you really want to, like sometimes you're going to be nudging a shape like 0.001. Like what is that really going to look like? You kind of need like a large monitor so you can see that. So I have this like beautiful 34-inch like ultra-wide monitor, and then a BenQ, and both of these are like very easy on my eyes. And I also do use computer glasses as well, because yeah, I've experienced like weird like eye twitching as well. Because like in this field, you know, Sophia knows, she's my coworker, so she knows like we're working like 10, 12 hours like a day sometimes, and yeah, it's really tough. So set yourself up for success. I also use this laptop stand from Amazon that works as my second monitor. This is where I have like Teams open, just any like communication or just like reference documents. And then I use my main monitor for the design, or like maybe I have like another browser tab open, like doing like REM calculations or doing you know, accessibility checks. So that's why it's nice to have like a lot of space, and so you don't really feel confined. again, I joke about like the pencil, like, I use very expensive pencils too, but these are very nice. This is the Pentel Carry mechanical pencil, and then the Palomino Black Wing, very nice for, drawing out all my thoughts and iterations, and then I sharpen them with a German Dux 2580, and again, you don't really need these, but I just like geeking out about this stuff. The paper, I always have like a Baron Fig notebook with me, just for like any quick ideas, and then this is small, and then I always pair that with a very large newsprint pad that's like 18 by 24. And this allows me, because I don't have space for like a huge whiteboard at home or at work. I mean, at work we have tiny whiteboards. But this I could just like put all over my desk, and then I can make frame after, sketch frame out of frame out of frame, rather than doing like a lot of little pieces of paper and then everything kind of gets lost. The desk, if you can get a standing desk, an L shape, that's really awesome. This is just what I personally use. And then the chair, I borrow the Titan, the Secret Lab Titan Evo chair, or just like a very nice office chair from Knoll. And then lastly, when I get to work from home, I also have like this really nice emotional support cat, and he was with me when I was making this presentation. So get yourself one of these as well. They're very nice. Okay. So now I'm going to be talking about digital tools, and this is a really handy worksheet or kind of flyer made by Semene Deganpour, I believe that's how you pronounce it. And you'll want to pick a software that falls under one of these categories. The ones that I've kind of circled or squircled actually in red are the ones that I personally use. So whiteboarding, I use FigJam. This is how I give you all the presentations all the time. A lot of times, as a UX designer, you're not prototyping. We're just whiteboarding a lot of sticky notes online with our remote team. So for example, like, let's just say like, well, what are ways that we can make, I don't know, just our onboarding flow better? And then we'll set a timer. Everyone will like put out like a million different sticky notes, and then we'll do an affinity map later. And then that's why whiteboarding is really important to document the ideation process. And then also, like if you're trying to get into like more of like the senior roles, it's really important to learn to facilitate workshopping and guiding teams, into a direction and pulling out their creativity. Prototyping, I use Figma personally. I haven't honestly tried the others other than Framer. Surveys, this is when you do like UX research. You could just do Google Forms, Typeform, Microsoft Forms, I use that as well. Card sorting is about like seeing how people categorize things in their head. So you can like put a lot, like, so if you have like a lot of different sticky notes. So let's just say you're working on information architecture for a website, and then every single sticky note would be a page in that website. How would you actually organize that and have that make sense to people? That's what you would use these card sorting softwares. They test users to see how they react. A/B testing. Oops, I forgot to circle one. I use Adobe Target. This is also great to learn like what preferences people have. And a lot of times you just might hear from your boss or like someone just say like, oh, I prefer this thing. But it's more important to get like a larger group of people to tell you what they prefer. Like, oh, why? Like, so why are you really going to round the corners of your buttons? Is that really important? You can A/B test that. And then that kind of leads me to usability testing. This is where you can once you've created a prototype in Figma, you can upload this into like these browser-based softwares, and it's just like another way for people to test. It tracks how many like clicks they do and where they click, and then how long it takes them to do something, so that will test how accessible and easy to navigate your prototypes are. For design handoff, Figma has a really great dev mode. But lately I've just really been into Zeppelin because It's a lot easier to track different versions of design changes and work with product owners and IT. It kind of works like Git, where you can commit changes and then everyone can know. And then you can get approval for things. So especially when you work in Agile, like this is just so important. Like the screens are changing all the time. Like I think I changed a screen like 20 times. And then before Zeppelin, I couldn't really track that. And then there's like a myriad of AI tools, of course, like ChatGPT, Midjourney, just you get some like images there. Of course, however you feel about it, it's totally fine. But, it does speed up the process. Just know that it's only like a starting place. All right. Does anyone have any questions before? Yeah?
Do any of these tools let you create the design visually and then create the HTML or the markup to actually use in the product?
Yeah, that would be this prototyping row right here. And I'm actually going to be showing you all some Figma basics as well. Yeah. Yes?
Have you ever used Wizard or UI search?
No, I haven't yet. Have you?
I saw it and I was curious. I was wondering if anybody ever used it because it looks like you can upload images of your sketches and then it gives you a mock-up based on that, right?
Oh, yeah, exactly.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so it'd be cool. I mean, again, there's so many different softwares. There are industry standards. If you're trying to get a job, look at the job descriptions and see what they list out most. It's usually Figma. But also I really pride myself for the ability to learn other software very quickly. I think that's that's kind of more important than knowing the software, if that makes sense. Because things are changing all the time. And then also if you just know how to Google search things and then know the words of features within the prototyping tool, then you're golden. Because you can always just search that up. All right. So a raise of hands, who's a master at Figma or has been using it for a while? Yeah? Okay. Who hasn't used it at all or kind of new and interested in learning? Okay. Okay, nice. All right. So again, this was FigJam, and it's just infinite whiteboard. This is for ideating. But once we've gone through that, we can take things into the design files of Figma. And I'll just show you all some basics. So this is what the user interface looks like. Usually it's blank, but you'll see different tools up here. And most importantly is the frame tool. So if you hit F, or you can go here, this will create a frame. You can change the size of the frame by going, oops, sorry. Also, let me expand this. You can change the size of the frame, and they have all of these presets for whatever device that you want to use. So MacBook, desktop, Apple Watch. There's even social media down here as well. And typically, I'll just use the latest iPhone size. Frames are different than shapes. So this is a rectangle, and this is a frame. And you can see that when I drew this shape in here, it's kind of already part of a group. So just imagine that this is all kind of grouped together, and then you'll be making the components within this frame. Shapes you can still change the shape of with the pen tool up here. So let's say I wanted to, I don't know, just add a point here. And then, oops, sorry. Oop, pen tool. And then you can move them around and make different shapes. Personally, because I started off as a graphic designer, I do more of my shapes in Illustrator, but it works very similarly. So I don't know, you can make a flag or something and change or make more interesting and unique shapes for your design. You can change colors by going here to fill and playing with the color selector here. You can change the opacity of it. Let's say oh, I want it 20% for some reason. We have the type tool or text tool. And then before you know it, we kind of have something that looks like a button here. Okay, so I know that was all kind of like baby stuff. But let me show you some other Figma basics. So, sorry, 1 second. I think it's probably easier to show you the shortcuts first. So, since I've been talking about workflow, it's also important to know keyboard shortcuts because it just makes your workflow so much faster. And instead of me having to like put my cursor all the way here and then select the rectangle tool, then draw the rectangle, I can just press R and then make it really quickly. If you're interested in knowing all of the different shortcuts, you can click Control-Shift/, and Figma does a really wonderful job of showing you almost all of the shortcuts that they have. And then they've even like categorized it here for you. So like a lot of this is kind of similar if you've used Adobe products before, but some of them are a little bit different. And then what's also nice is that if you could see, like I'm hitting O for the ellipse tool, it gives you some animated feedback to tell you like which one you're hitting. So it's kind of nice, like in the beginning, to maybe just do some drills so you remember all of these shortcuts. It's not that you have to know all of them, but I do recommend at least knowing all of the tools, view, zoom, and certain edit ones as well. You know, I mean, some of them are the same, like copy, you know, Command C is copy, Command P paste. But this will just like, once you know these, then it's like people will go to you and think you're like a god at the computer because you'll just go like bam, bam, bam. Okay, it's done. All right. So going to some other Figma basics, just want to show you guys that you can duplicate things. So if I make a rectangle and if I want to make another one, I can hold down the Option and Shift key to make another one. But if you hit Command D, then it'll keep duplicating into the same direction. There's also some spacebar tricks as well. So let's just say you have all your components like all around. You can hold down your cursor or like your mouse pad, and let's say like you're selecting this. But if you hold down the space bar, you can actually now move that selection bounding box, and then go to the other shapes over here. Another cool thing to quickly put in images, and then let me just make like 3 of these. Oh, and really quickly, you can also quickly scale things by hitting K, and then it'll constrain all the proportions very equally, because otherwise it might do something weird if it's not like a perfect rectangle. Well, here, maybe it's a bad example. I'll show you guys later. But if you hit Command-Shift-K, then it'll open up your Finder. And then if you select multiple images, you can open them. And then as you can see, we have our cursor. It's turned into this kind of plus symbol. It has 3 images, if you can see that in red. And then if you just hit a shape, then it immediately fills it in. And that's really nice when you have like a million different screens and need to change all of the images.
That was Command-Shift-K?
Yeah.
That's cool. Okay.
Yeah, that was really nice. All right. Going back to some pen tool tricks, Figma has a delete and heal. So if well, let's just say like, oh, this star is fine, but for some reason I just don't want it to have this top point. If you go into the pen tool option or modifying the shape, you can hit Shift. You can select whatever node you want deleted and hit Shift Delete, and then it will automatically heal that path and make it as smooth as possible. Now it's actually more, you'll be able to see it more in this example where there's a lot of weird wonky anchor points. But let's say I just want these ones removed. Shift Delete, and look how beautiful it's like. It's a real S now. So that's like a really nice kind of auto feature to clean up weird anchor points you may have. You can also, like, once you have like a whole ton of screens, like for example, the project I'm working on now, I don't know, it might have like 200 or 250 screens or something like that, and and I need to select everything similar. You can actually select elements with the same property. So let's say like, oh, I need to find everything like in this file that's a blue square. If you hit that, go to edit, select all with. We have different options here, like select the same properties, or if they have the same fill color or stroke, or with an effect. You can pick one of these, but let's just say property. And it selected all of the ones in this artboard or in this frame. And it does that with text as well. So edit, select all with same text properties, and then I've selected these two.
So will that happen in multiple frames, or is that just in one frame?
So it's supposed to happen in all the frames. These are a little bit larger, so I think the properties are a little bit different. But let's just edit. I'll just like put it over here and select this, edit, select all with same text properties. Yeah, so it's everywhere. So that's muy bueno, very beautiful. Another thing you can do is like, oh, I just made all these random rectangles, but I need them to be organized. If you select all of them and then hover over, this little grid in the bottom shows up. You can hit that, and then it immediately tidies it up. But not just that, you'll see that there's kind of like these pink lines in between. You can use that to decrease the spacing in between them, or decrease or increase the spacing, just like that. And then these little pink circles allow you to kind of easily maneuver them as like based on a grid.
So it's like a micro auto layout.
Yeah, exactly. But without committing to auto layout, and sometimes you may not want that. All right. Another cool trick is that you can use images as styles. So I just have this photo from like Pexels here, and actually let me detach that style because I made it as practice earlier. Anyway, if you have the photo, we could see that the fill of this rectangle is this image. If you click the plus icon near fill, if you hit the grid icon near fill, go to library, hit the plus icon, and I already have ocean there, but let's just call it ocean 2. You can make that into a style, not variable, style. Let me close that. Library, plus style, ocean 2. You can create a style, and then you can apply it to other things, such as this other rectangle, and now all of a sudden it's just filled with that image. It also works with text as well. So go back to the fill, ocean 2, and then now we have this really cool, really cool effect all of a sudden. And then if you delete it, yeah, ZN. So that was really awesome. Maybe a lot of you may know of the arc tool. So if you create a circle, press O on your keyboard, make a circle, make it a cute color. But let's say I want to make a pie chart. If you hover over this, there's a little circle, and you can hold that, and then we can sweep this around to whatever shape you'd like. Another cool part is that once you do that, you can hit the other node in the middle, and that allows you to open it up from the inside. So now we have like a nice, more modern pie chart. So like, let's just say this is like 92%. And then that'll that can go on like a dashboard, or that could be your iPhone charger symbol. All right, next thing is multiple fills. So you guys can see I already have like the ocean fill here, but maybe it's a little hard to read Mardi Gras. I don't know why I picked that, but but yeah, I want to go to New Orleans. This is the ocean. Oh, I think this is. I went on a cruise ship there, so that's probably why I picked the ocean. But you can see that we have a fill, but you can actually add another one, and as you can see, it immediately darkened the entire thing because now we have a 20% black opacity on this. However, if you want to make it more fancy, you can change the gradient of it. So it's a little bit cleaner. Let's just kind of like move that the other way. And maybe I don't want black, but like a nice darker blue is better. And we can put that up some more, you know, whatever you think looks best. So this way you don't have to like keep adding like other shapes on top, and then it just kind of like messes with all of the like layers you already have in the side panel. Another thing you do is copy and paste properties. So let's just say like I want this circle to have the properties of the star. You can right click and you can do copy properties, which is actually Option Command C, and then paste those properties. So now they look the same. So let's say you have like 100 buttons that need to be different. Now you can do that very easily. Maybe some of you have worked with auto layout before, and usually it's like what auto layout is. It conforms everything to certain rules. Like we're going to have 24 like padding, or padding in between all of the items, but on the side, you know, I want to make that 16 or 24 and 24. So you can change all that, and then it keeps everything like nice and organized. However, sometimes it is a little bit annoying. Like let's just say I didn't want this here, and they're all left aligned, and I don't want that. You can actually take that out. If you hold it, and if you hold spacebar, it just ignores the auto layout, and then you could still just put it on top, because for some reason I want it on the right side, and I think that looks more aesthetically pleasing. All right, cool. So those are some like really helpful like tricks that I know in Figma that just make my workflow a lot easier. The last part of like the demo is to show you how to make different variants. And let me see, sorry, it's already 1:48. Good on time. But before you start prototyping, it's important to get kind of like a UI kit together, and this will be the start of your design system. And the reason you would want to do that is that you want consistency throughout your design. You don't want to have a lot of buttons that are different shapes or different colors, or maybe the padding is a little bit off and somewhere else. So instead, just make all of your small like granular components on its own before you do everything else. You can also just pull things from Figma community. I don't know if any of you have like looked at Figma community before, but if I wanted a UI kit, I could pull up one. It does save time, but it's also important to remember, like, even though maybe you don't have to build something ground up, you still have to curate it and modify it so it works with your company's design system. So, yeah, I mean, you could pull some stuff. That's also important to remember. Like, it's also nice to like make it on your own so you really understand everything that you could do. So, sorry, where are we? Oh, here. Okay. Before I show you how to make buttons, just a quick tip. and I can go this I can go through this more in like next sessions, but it's great to have a typography scale where you label everything, like these are the ones that are used for headings, and this font and size are used for the body. These are used only for buttons, and this is only used for captions. And the numbers you see here are just, it's easier for other designers to understand what's happening, but this is also great for handing off to developers so they can input that into their own CSS. So they can see like, oh, okay, so this is Roboto, and it's bold 700. FYI, if anyone was wondering what the numbers mean, 400, like 100 to 700, it just means like, it's a way of naming things like small to large, or thin to thick, or in the case of color, light to dark. Yes?
Is your deliverable to, like, say somebody's doing the CSS, is it the Figma files, or what are you giving them?
Yeah, you can give them this Figma file. Like you can turn on dev mode and hover over stuff, and it gives them like a little bit of that CSS so they can plug it in. Of course, I mean, I'm not a programmer, but have them make sure everything looks correct. But this will be easier so they don't have to like put in the hex or the HSL code every single time. If you make a design token, so it's like, oh, this is yellow 500, then the developer will know we're using the darkest yellow we have for this button, or the darkest blue that we have for this button. And then if you want to change the design token later, you can always just change the one hex code in that one place rather than hundreds of instances in your code. And that goes the same, and that's the same for typography. And yeah, just to kind of quickly go over, this tells you like the font size, line height and percentage, as well as letter spacing. Another thing you could do is give them rem. It's not like shown here, but we'll talk about responsive design in a different session. All right. Another trick or another thing about color. So let's just say all of these colors, or all of the main colors, are part of your logo and branding. Always remember, as a designer, these are not the only colors you should work out of. This is really only for flavor and for emphasis. You always should have a neutral color palette as well. You're always going to use white and black, and then the range of 50 to 700 of like kind of like a white gray to dark gray. And it's just like so much easier on people's eyes. And then we can then like really focus on using color semantically, meaning these colors have meaning. These colors are not part of like the branding. If we're using red, this is danger. If it's orange, it's a warning. Green, success. Blue, info. So when you're creating your design system, you're always going to have a version of this plus whatever your brand style guide will be. Yeah.
So on the topic of color, I heard something once that kind of stuck to my brain. So I heard something called the 60-30-10 rule. Have you ever heard of that?
That's familiar, but if you can explain that.
So essentially the 60-30-10 rule with color is that you should have 60% of one color, like 60% of your design should be one color, 30% should be one, and 10%
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Now, I got stuck in that, and I'm wondering, like, so is it always good to have a range or a palette of colors, even if you're following a rule like that?
Yeah, it depends on your design system. But yeah, like I think what they're trying to say is 60% is the white to black. And then, what was the other, 30 and 10?
Like 60-30-10, right? So like 60% one color for the most part, then 30% one color, then 10% one color.
Yeah.
It's like they say like 3 colors is kind of the most you would want to use.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think?
No, that's true too. Unless you're doing something like very playful for like children, and
Audience.
depends on the audience.
If I'm doing a cartoon, from Nickelodeon, I want to have a palette of 256 colors.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. No, that's a good point. Yeah, go
It's like
ahead.
a design thing. I don't know if it's a UI thing.
Yeah, just in design in general,
Yeah.
like using like
Because,
more of a
for
chromatic.
ribbon work, like the 60 is the navy, the 30 is
The teal, as in 10 is the green, yeah.
So I see it in like design, but I don't know how you would implement it in like a UI UX similarly.
I guess it's like if it's outside of the neutrals, there's going to be a color that you use most of the time. Maybe like this primary is 60%. Most of my buttons may be this color. And then 30% of the time, I don't know, the other lines or labels could be a yellow or orange. And then if you need that other color, then just put it in sparingly. Because otherwise it's going to mess up with the semantic meanings of everything else.
And I guess like a different shade is different than using like a whole different color, right? Like if you use a different shade of yellow, that's different than using like yellow and green, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the shades are important, I mean, semantic-wise, because like if we look here, this is an example of like of danger buttons. But you can see like we have a default, we have a hover state, a press state, and disabled. And technically this is all the same color, but different tints of that color, because it's going to designate like the interaction there, give the person feedback. And for me, that's the only reason why I would ever use like tints of the color. There are some designers I see that say like, don't even make all of these other things, like we're not even going to use it. But again, that's really specific to your design system. But again, if you're not using one of the components, you can always just delete it. All right, so the last part of this Figma demo is creating these variants of all of these different kinds of buttons. And there's a lot of different ways to kind of make the same thing. But I'll show you how this one was specifically made. So here, like I said, we have the default hover press disabled. We also have large, medium, and small sizes. We have left icon and a right icon. And yeah, and that's it. So I've copied them over here. You can make one button, make that a component, and then keep adding variants, or you can make them all separate, and then highlight them. You go up here into like the component button, and then you create a component set. So now this is all one component, and we're able to switch to all of the different ones. But in order to switch to those different ones, we have to add different properties. So here it just kind of gives you a default property 1. But let's just say I want to make that property size. Oops. Size. And then I'm going to highlight all of the ones that are large. And then I'll name that large. I'll get all the medium ones. Sorry, this is going to take me a second. Oh, where did that one? That one's gone, and we're missing one. It's okay. Well, we can go on without it. This is medium, and then we'll get the smalls. And also we make these different sizes just because you want to have just enough options in your UI. Sometimes like this big button is just too big, and like if this is the call to action, we need to use other buttons that aren't competing for attention, and this is why we're using different sizes. Anyway, so we're going to make these small, and now it has the size property and then 3 different values under size. So if I take one of these, and this is, for some reason Figma like has to work this way, you have to scroll away so you don't see it, the rest of the variants. But we have a copy here, and you can tell that this is an instance because it has an open diamond here on the left, as opposed to like a filled diamond, or kind of like the set of diamonds there. And now I'm like, oh, I put this button here, but it has to be smaller. And then all of a sudden, it is smaller. And then it's a lot easier to switch components out without like ruining your design, like rather than like, oh, I have to move this here, and then I have to move another one, and then make sure it's like in the right place. That's just an easy way of changing them out. But you guys probably saw that it didn't use the right state. We have to make another state, so we're going to make another variant called, state. All of these on the left here are going to be, default. This one is all going to be hover, so add new, hover. These ones are all going to be add new, press, pressed. And this one down here is all going to be disabled. So let's just like check what that looks like now. And we have this here. Now we see that there's two different properties, and now I can make this default. And if I want it to be medium, now it's finally like keeping all of the properties in order. The last thing we can do here, because I mentioned we have left and right icons, we're going to select all the ones with a left icon. And again, there's like multiple ways. We have to create this property first. There's multiple ways of doing this, but here's one way. And we're going to say left icon, the value is false for most of them, but for the ones that do have that left icon, select all of them, and then we're making a new value under there that says true. And we're going to do the same thing for right icon.
And this turns it into a top.
Yes, exactly. JB's a master at Figma, so that's why he already knows. He's a principal designer. Okay, sorry. Right icon, false, and then hover over the right ones, and then add new, true. And now, so let's just take that one and see how it is. Now we could see that when we use true and false as a value under variant, it immediately makes a toggle option. So now I want the left icon. Or never mind, I want the right icon. And now you can also see that I didn't even have to turn off the other one. It just immediately turned off on its own. So that's a nice way of like placing a button and then like having control of all of the properties rather than going, let me go back to my design system and then I'll copy this button and I'll go back to my file and I'll paste it. Now it's just like all right here. Yeah.
So you created the component set. I see there's a parent component. Can you go into so could you rename the parent component button?
Yeah, you can. It just says primary right now because that's a default. Let's just say this is the primary button.
Okay, and then you could go into your components, find primary button, right? Is that what?
Yes. So then, as you guys can see, we have layers up here. This shows you the page you're on, and then also like the many layers you have. If you go to assets, we can see your local components. So I made a primary button, and you could just drag it, and then put it in. Well, let's just say, let's put in a new frame. So yeah, just drag it, and then I want another one.
It's safer than trying to pull it within the design library, which is what this is, because you could actually screw up the component and try to play with it within the component library.
Yes. Yeah, so safer. Keep the parents as safe as you can, and don't mess with them because then it'll mess up every other instance in your design file. But there's always Command Z, so don't worry about it. All right. Lastly, I just want to go over the other property options. I made these buttons in a slightly different way, and as you can see, let's just say I never want right icons. I always want them on the left. So let me just select all of these. Oh wait, actually I already made them. Let me give you an example though. Sorry, one moment. We'll go over here. Let me paste this button, and then I'll show you how I made this, but here's the example. We have the primary. I can change it to secondary or warning or danger. I can change the state, so maybe I want it to be focused, and then it has icon or doesn't have icon. And then I can also just change the button text like from right here. So another quick way of doing it. So let me show you how that's done. So let me select this. Oops, sorry. I don't have, see how I don't have my MX Master 3 and how I'm messing up? This is why you need that mouse. One second. Okay. Sorry, I should have had a version where it was all like deselected. Or you know what? Sorry. 1 second. So to make a button from scratch, I realized I didn't even go through that, and that'd be easier. But you can select the frame tool, and I'm just making it any size at the moment. I'll select whatever color I have. If I want the radius to change, like the corner, then maybe I'll put in 10. And that doesn't look very nice. Maybe I want more. Maybe it's 30, 40. Sure, 40 looks good. And then you can take some text, like button. Let's make this, I didn't actually save all of those color styles. It's just there to show you all. But let's like center that. Like, why is it doing it like that? Okay. We can group this. And if you add auto layout, oops, sorry about this, 1 second. This group, add auto layout. Oh, why is that not doing it? One moment, technical difficulty, button, white, auto layout. Oh, hug contents, That's so weird. Sorry about that, hold on. Because it's in a different frame. Oh. Sorry, hold on. What? Oh, okay, sorry. No, this is weird why it's not like working. I don't know why this is not working at the moment. Frame, auto layout. Huh. I think I have like an issue. I might need to update my Figma. But anyway, I'm sorry guys. I don't know why that's not working at the moment. What it's supposed to do is like, if I press enter, like I made these before, but it's changing, the size of the button like immediately changes based on like the text I'm putting in there, because I like set the, like this frame to like hug the contents and also have auto layout. So let me just like detach this instance and sorry about that. It's never a design demo without like some sort of mistake, right? Okay, but let's just say like I want to make this into a component. So I just did. If I didn't want this icon here, I can make it into like a Boolean property. So you would go into layer and you see this kind of like line going into a diamond. It says create Boolean. So you can name it like show icon, and then there's immediately a true and false. So then now we can create that property. And then if you select the text, you can see that I can create the text property and then be able to enter a different value later. Let me just make sure that works. And sorry about earlier, oh my gosh. But now see, now we can show the icon, this is a Boolean, true or false, and we can change the text into whatever else we want. And just ignore this, sorry about that. I know what I'm doing, I promise, I swear. No, I know, right? Okay. But yeah, does that make sense to everybody? Like having all these different variants? It's beautiful. All right, yeah, so that's actually the end of the Figma presentation.